This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I'm just being me in a world that isn't. This is the Nitro Quiver Fusion. Next to it is the Highlander. Both are 59s. Over further to the left is the Dropout, and the Fusion's a little more like the Dropout, a little less like the Highlander, but I'll be talking about mainly the Fusion today and occasionally referencing the others. I got this late spring, and the conditions were pretty good for late spring. Got a couple days on it. Rode it with the Burton Kendos and the Union Atlas. And to give you a short summary, the Nitro Quiver Fusion is kind of like the more traditional free ride board. It's got a mostly camber profile, leans more on the technical side, a pretty stiff flex between the feet, but on snow, it's a poppy, good turning board that could work with a wide variety of riding styles. And it's got a decent setback on board for those deep days. When it comes to sizing, the 159 felt just right for my boot size. I felt maybe a touch heavy for this at 190 to 195 pounds, but that's how my life is with a lot of boards like this, so felt pretty good. I wouldn't want to size up or size down. When it comes to shape, yeah, there's a little bit of taper, I think about 7 mil if I remember correctly. And it doesn't feel too tapered, too washy. You need a little more back foot weight, but overall it's pretty good there. And then the camber profile is mostly camber with just a touch of early rise in the nose and tail. That makes it feel a little more locked in, a little bit more like traditional camber. It's not quite traditional camber, but it's close. It's not a real chill board for those who maybe are pushing it a bit, get off their game a lot, and need to skid out turns. It's not that kind of board. It's more of an advanced, expert, technical kind of rider kind of board. But this camber profile is very consistent in all conditions. Let's talk flex here. Overall, it's medium stiff. Stiff between the feet right here, a little softer in the nose, and about almost the same as the middle in the tail. Now, despite this flex, it wasn't as hard to butter as I thought it would be, but it's still pretty challenging. And as far as ollie power, it's pretty easily accessible for somebody of my average ability level. And I thought it would be a little more difficult when I was playing around with it in my office, just flexing it and playing around with it before I rode it. I was kind of surprised at how well it popped. Now, when it comes to speed, this is not the bomber that the Highlander is, and it's definitely more damp than the Dropout. But I found that this was the kind of board that I would like. I felt like the Highlander was too much. I felt like the Dropout was a little too bucky and bouncy and chattery. It's not terrible, but it's definitely more on the lively, poppy side. This was that kind of nice right in the middle. It felt like it had that nice kind of upper middle mountain dampness that was good. The base glide was pretty good. I would say upper tier, maybe not the fastest of fast, but definitely competent. And if you're consistent waxing this, I think it'll keep its speed pretty well on long, flat outs after a powder day and such. Now, as far as uneven terrain goes, this is a good all-day resort ride. It didn't get too overly chattery and cranky in that, micro bumpy to messy snow you can sometimes see in late spring. I felt like I could ride this all day despite its medium stiff flex, so good job there. Now, when it comes to edge hold, I felt it was pretty good. With the few hard patches I hit, I thought it held well enough. I don't think it's like a true ice specialist or a hard snow specialist, but I think it did a good job just gripping in most conditions you want to ride. Now, when it comes to turn initiation, I thought it was pretty quick edge to edge, just leaning into it and getting the board to engage. And once that side cut was engaged, I thought it was a pretty balanced side cut. I think it favors a little bit more of that long drawn out S turns, but it doesn't shy away from or straight line you out of an across the groomer turn, kind of the wider radius turns. I felt it pretty balanced, where the Highlander felt definitely like it wanted to go straight more than it wanted to turn. And the Dropout was pretty turny. And It was just kind of a different board, the Dropout, though. But I liked the balance, and I felt like I could do a little bit of everything. I could take this in the trees. I felt like I could take it everywhere. It really flexed into the carve well. And then when you were getting out of the turn, it had a good spring to it that popped you out and accelerated you into the next turn. It felt almost like full camber, and it was a good feeling, and I liked it. As far as powder goes, I don't really know. There's a decent setback on board, kind of on par with the rest of the industry for boards like this. You combine that with the tapered directional shape, you know, that like 7 mil or so of taper to help sink the nose a little bit. You've got a much bigger, longer nose than tail. I think you're gonna get decent directional float for a board like this. I think it's kind of on par with the industry. And then you have, as you can see, just the way this board sits, you have a pretty centered stance for a board like this. So it'll be pretty good if you're gonna ride some steep terrain. If you see a lot of steep terrain on powder days, this is gonna be a good board for that because you'll have that more centered feel. You can get more air and land easier because you're a little more centered on the board. And I think it has the right appeal to maybe somebody who maybe doesn't ride as much low angle powder as I do, but rides more steep angle powder. This might be a really fun board. Switch. Not bad switch for what it is. It was pretty easy to throw around and ride the other way. And I had a decent time just making some kind of old man turns in the pipe, but this isn't something I want to jib with. But this can just hit kickers all day, especially if you like a more directional approach to getting air. So overall, I think this Quiver Fusion is a pretty well-balanced ride that favors a more advanced to expert rider and likes a board that is almost all camber, a little more on the technical side, and sees a little more big mountain, kind of steep mountain kind of riding. And that's who I think this would appeal to more. So there you have it. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now, if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.